That then brings us to the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the June 6, 2012 special called work session, the June 29, 2012 special call meeting, and the July 9, 2012 regular business and public hearing meeting?
I move that we accept the minutes.
There's a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
A second.
There's a second by Councilman Sabah. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. 6 in favor. All those opposed, 0 opposed. The minutes stand approved. Brings us to invited guests. Mr. Ewing.
Thank you, Mayor. It's good to be back again. Just briefly to cover what we went over last time, we had Mr. Sawyer's life. Mr. Sawyer and his brother came to America first, followed shortly by about 4 months by Mr. Snell. Mr. Snell moved to the crossroads here first, and Mr. James Sawyer soon joined him, and they joined in a business venture. After they split, his friend Snell died. Sawyer, now alone, was very successful in business and in land investments. He was active and a contributor to the community, especially in the local school development. With his typical attention to detail, he made plans for his coming demise. He had his casket built before he died and his mausoleum out in the cemetery here. Tonight I'm going to talk to you about the early education program in this community. Within the close-in area of the Crossroads and Snellville community, 5 known schools, beginning probably with a log building, a private academy, temporary school in the Baptist church, the first modern building, and the consolidated school, and then south as we know it today. Tonight I will briefly cover the first 3. The first school, while a couple of others have been mentioned, my research indicates they were in the surrounding area and not within the current local close-in area. Most developing rural communities built their churches, began having school in their churches, and then built a school adjacent to the church. The Crossroads did it in reverse. They had a school here, and the churches were formed in the schools. The churches were built afterwards. Within the general vicinity of the old Ryan Steakhouse, which is vacant over here now, somewhere in that general vicinity, there was a school alternately called Spring School or Bryant Springs. We don't know what it looked like. Probably it was a log cabin structure. Of that time, it couldn't hardly have been anything else. Research on it is a stone wall. It's documented by one published document and a couple of secondary verbal explanations or descriptions of the school, where it was located and who attended there. We presume it had the very rudiments of the facilities, books, supplies. And while we look up on it as a lacking, remember, it was an opportunity for some to begin an education. The others, unfortunately, had no opportunity, or either their parents in those days didn't allow them to attend school. That was not uncommon. It was apparently the only established functioning school in the close-in area until 1883, and we don't know when it actually began, but I believe it began prior to the Civil War. So it would have been there about 20 years. Mr. Oscar Brown comes to town. He may have taught at the old log cabin 1 year, and then he purchased a lot from Mr. Snell, right over here where the Methodist Church is, if you know where that dwelling's sitting right on the corner. He purchased that lot and built an academy there. Professor Brown's, this is July the 8th, 1883. Professor Brown's Academy will be ready for teaching soon. Professor Brown's plan is the only one that his school can be carried out successfully, and that is for a teacher to build his own school, his own schoolhouse, and govern it as he sees proper. When this rule is adopted, you will see better schoolhouses, better teachers, and less of these little half-handed schools that are taken up by fellows that have just come out of the field and forgotten half what they learned. He's making it pretty pointed there, I'd say. The first graduation was in September of 1883. There's almost a large article just devoted to that from the Snellville community at that time. The exercise of the students of a high school, which I never knew. He apparently was teaching some high school class. At the promising ville known as Snellville, Gwinnett County, Professor Brown, preceptor, was well to his post. And it was made manifest during the exercises that the professor had not failed to teach the young idea how to shoot, for they shot well. Surprising to hear that. I was. Then came the contest and the typical things, the reading, the recitations, and so forth. The professor, having been a student at the Military Institute, marshaled his forces well, displaying his power in tactics. Can you imagine a little military school here in this crossroads community? Mr. Dryce Lanier was the best speaker. He was salutatory. Mr. John Moore was the valedictory. All of the good above the all the good under the audience reflects honor to the entire community around about Snellville, where we observe vice giving away and morality taking its place. Must have been something going on at that time. Professor Brown will reopen his school first Monday of January 1884. Take notice. Mr. Brown was studying law and wanted to move on. So he put his school up for sale 3 years later in 1886. Apparently he had no takers. It appears his last class was in the spring of 1887, and he sold the lot and the building back to Mr. Snell. It was now being referred to as the Academy, and it is believed the school continued there until the late 1890s with various teachers. Folklore, unvalidated, indicates that the building burned. The school was held temporarily in the Baptist church, probably for about a year, no more than a year. Now we get what we call a modern school. Just east of the Baptist church, before you get to that little restaurant there. If you can visualize that, it's hard to do that now because they've graded everything, changed it, and the whole layout of the land is different. The new school was built. If you can visualize between the Baptist church and that restaurant, set right in there. It was the pride of the community, for it was far advanced of the many one-room school communities. It was run by the Snellville School District trustees. It opened in the spring of 1901. The last class was the spring of 1922, operating for 22 years as the community school, having the first through the 8th grades. Many say that Mr. Sawyer contributed extra funds to the construction. That information is unvalidated, but I suspect it's probably true. There is a photograph of the school taken in 1922. The state of Georgia conducted a study of the schools in Gwinnett County in 1922. It's requested by the county school superintendent. This is their report. I found this in my grandfather's property after he died. It was used for various things, including to make certain notes in it. The Gwinnett County Historical Society thought this important enough to republish it, and we have it republished up there for sale in hardback copy. Now I'm going to read you some things because they don't mince words in here. A very great majority of the schools of the systems and all the small schools are in dark print, highlighted, failing to function efficiently, resulting in great waste of the public school funds and far greater waste in time and opportunity of the county's children. To bring the public school system of the county to any satisfactory degree and efficiency so as to get the best possible returns in education for the dollars devoted to maintenance of the schools and serve the highest interests of the county's children will require time, courage, and sacrifice. The children are well worth it. Will the public realize it? The first legal step in this policy will involve creating larger school districts. That was one of the first recommendations. We'll skip all the rest and scoot on over to some other interesting stuff. Here's how they described a one-room school. A little piece of ground upon which a little house, in which a little equipment, at which a little teacher, on a little salary, for a little while during the year, is attempting to teach some little children a few little things. They describe the buildings as lacking. One teacher of doubtful scholarship and little or no training, working under the blighting influences of isolation, lacking professional companionship, not expecting to remain long, with so many classes that her time is wholly taken up her time. But very few. Back in those days, there were not female teachers. Now, they're talking about consolidating the schools. And one of the things here, if I can get it right now. Oh, attendance is poor, irregular, tardiness, and truancy is common. Best with the children educated inclined to move away to teachers are in transit. Short school year often divided into 2 short terms. A consolidated school is what they're recommended, and I said the first step was to expand the school district and that sort of thing. A consolidated school becomes both an educational and socializing agency of the community. The children's school life overlap with the community's social and business life without abrupt break. Efforts had already begun in this community to build a consolidated school when this report was written. The leaders of this community had gotten a step ahead of them because the state was pushing consolidation and they were making a few funds available. So this community was moving. Next week, I'm going to tell you about the first consolidated school, rural school in Gwinnett County. It's right here at this crossroads. Now, the 4 points tonight. The first school is probably a log cabin northeast of the cemetery, back there, right out that way. The second school was a private school, Professor Oscar Brown's Academy, later just called the Academy. It operated after Mr. Brown left with various teachers, and again, it was located right adjacent to the Methodist Church, right on that corner where that residence is. A young man that grew up there tells me that his parents told him about that being the school, and the well that they used before we had water in the city was the well that was dug for the school. And that was the well they used until that was changed over to city water. The third school opened in 1901 and operated for 22 years, just east of the Baptist Church. Unless you have any questions, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ewing. Any questions for Mr. Ewing?
Was that the school, are you saying the Britt Elementary School plot, was that the school that was started in 1901?
Which one?
Britt Elementary?
No.
That's east
No,
of
that
this
school was
Baptist.
started in the 50s, Britt Elementary.
Okay, well, I'm getting my geography here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Britt Elementary School is further on down at right across from the south.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking about right across from the Methodist Church here, right where that residence sits. Right on the corner, Henry Boulevard in 78.
This is great. Thank you so much.
Very welcome. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ewing.
Madam Chair,